On. So welcome everyone. This is the June 2022 meeting of the Mid-Atlantic Amateur Radio Club. So I'm Jeremy, N2ZLQ club president. So maybe those of us in Zoom can introduce themselves quickly as we normally do.
Jim Foster, W3JNF secretary.
Bob Palin, N3JIZ Public Service and Hamfest.
AC3N Kai, just a club member.
Joining from Colorado. All right.
Nice.
So as you saw in the email that I sent out recently, Mark does have a new YouTube account. So I sent the link out there. So please subscribe and click the bell icon for notifications. I sound like a YouTuber now saying that, but we do have a new YouTube page. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get this meeting on it because there's a couple of bureaucratic things that we have to do before we can live stream on that, but we will start using that moving forward. Mark also does, yes, Kai says, smash that like button. We have had the MARC Facebook page, which has been active for quite a while. So we're hope that you'll be able to join that if you're on Facebook. So Lou, WX3I, couldn't be here tonight, but he gave me a little report to share with the membership from the Treasury. So our Treasury account is at $17,474. I think we have one check outstanding that hasn't cleared yet, and we're up to 79 members. So technical service, Dennis was called away to an IEEE meeting, so I'll say a couple of things quickly. A lot of work going on at Darby right now. So actually 147.36 is temporarily down. They were at the site doing some service and it threw some kind of a fault. So Dennis has it back on his bench right now for testing. We hope to get that back online fairly soon. We're also in the works to get a 224 repeater or 224.5 repeater at Darby. So that'll replace the repeater which croaked during COVID. So we'll get that up. Now 444.05 is up and running. And if you saw your email today from Steve Davidson, K3FZT, he set up a Wires X node at his QTH. So that 444.05 repeater now has full internet linking functionality. So if you have a Fusion radio, you can get in there. And I think as of now, it's completely unrestricted. So you can get into whatever Fusion groups you want to. You may change that around a little bit later. But if you go on 444.05, that's our UHF repeater in Darby, you can get into Fusion. 147.06 and 145.13, those are our flagship 2-meter repeaters. They're humming right along, and our nets are Wednesday evenings and Sunday evenings at 8:30 p.m. So I think that about does it for Darby. So let's move on to public service. Bob.
Okay. Well, as far as public service is concerned, we're pretty much finished up our spring season. And our next public service event is going to be the French Creek Racing Group's Charles Bender Memorial Swim. That takes place typically at the end of August, just before Labor Day, like the last Friday in August. So that one's going to be the first one that comes up. The next one after that will be the American Lung Association's 5-mile Radnor Run. That takes place in October. And then the Vietnam Vets 5K run in the Norristown Farm Park. That's in November. So that kind of does it for public service. You want me to do Hamfest?
All right, change hats.
Change hats and we'll do Hamfest. Okay. Okay, we were having a Hamfest on August 14th. That's Sunday, August 14th. And of course, we're looking for lots and lots and lots of help with the Hamfest. Many hands make light work. We're striving this year to try to get more people to help out so that everybody only has to be there for maybe an hour or two or thereabouts. And to help out with the Hamfest. And anyway, one of the things we can do right now is we're trying to get the word out because we've changed our date and our day. We're kind of like starting over. So we need to get the word out that the day and date has changed. And I think the best way to do that is to go to Hamfests and hand out Hamfest flyers for our Hamfest. People who go to Hamfests typically go to Hamfests. And so hopefully they'll come to ours. So we've got a bunch of Hamfests coming up in July. July 2nd, that's the Harrisburg Firecracker Hamfest. I think Dennis said he was going to go to that one. And then that's on a Saturday. On Sunday, July the 3rd, we have the Wilkes-Barre Mergas Hamfest in Wilkes-Barre. And we need someone to go to that one. I tried to go to 2 Hamfests this past weekend. I went to Piscataway, New Jersey, and there was no Hamfest because they decided, apparently at the last minute or at the last 2 weeks before the Hamfest, which was supposed to be on the 18th, they moved it to July 9th, because I'm pretty sure that I checked the LVI website at least 2 weeks ago. And it was still scheduled for the 18th. And of course, their Hamfest flyer still says the 18th on it, and June 18th. But anyway, I was told by someone from that club, the Raritan Valley Radio Club, that they moved it to July the 9th. So we need someone to go to Piscataway, New Jersey, to the Raritan Valley Radio Club Hamfest on July 9th. And July 17th, of course, is the Sussex County Amateur Radio Club in Augusta, New Jersey. And on July 30th, we have the Cumberland Valley Amateur Radio Club in Chambersburg, PA. And the last one before our Hamfest that's nearby us is Saturday, August 6th. And that's the Reading Radio Club's Hamfest in Sinking Springs. So we need to get people who want to head out to a Hamfest and enjoy a nice Hamfest and pass out flyers for our club. We need the flyers to be put not only on the club table, but we need to have them passed out to each and every tailgater and each and every vendor that's there. So we need lots of help from the club, like I say. And so if anybody's interested in any of these Hamfests, hopefully you'll get in touch with me. We have tons of Hamfest flyers for you to pass out. And so you don't have to make any copies. You don't have to do anything. You just pick them up from me, and I'll take them to the Hamfest. So at the moment, I guess that's about all we have. Everything else is still in the works. We're looking for food vendor and card checkers and card checker, and we're just working on the vendor list and so forth. So that's pretty much Hamfest, unless anybody has any questions.
Yeah, I do. Do we have a table at any of these Hamfests?
No, we have not had a MARC club table at any of these Hamfests. I kind of just try to get the Hamfest flyers out, and I think that's probably good enough. I mean, it'd be nice to have a club table there, but at the moment, the flyers are going to have to suffice unless more people want to step up and set a table up.
All right, thanks, Bob. That's great. Bob's been doing a really great job with the Hamfest here, going over and above. And actually, Rich, KB3VZL, has done a really good job getting door prizes. We have, I think, $2,500 worth of door prizes so far, and I think that number will go up. So be there on August 14th if you want to get into that. A couple more things to announce. The next club breakfast will be July 9th. So that's about, was that 2 weeks or so from now, 2.5 weeks from now? That's a Saturday morning, 9 a.m. That'll be at the Country Squire Diner in Broomall on Westchester Pike. So once again, that'll be Saturday morning, July 9th. VE testing, we haven't had anything super recently. The last session was in early May. We actually have 2 sessions coming up. One will be August 6th. That'll be at the Lower Providence Township Building. And then again on August 14th at the Ham Fest. So we'll get 2 testing sessions almost back to back. Right. Is there any other club business before we get to the main meeting for the evening? And I'll check YouTube, see if there's any questions here. All right, if not, let's get to our main topic of the evening, which is discussion of Field Day. So Jim, W3JNF, is our Field Day chair. And what I thought I would do is to open up by talking a little bit about the history of Field Day in MARC. So I'll talk about some of our previous Field Day events. Let me see if I can bring this up from the beginning. Let's go back to Zoom. Share the screen. I think I have the wrong one there. All right, let me bring up the correct one. I have a couple sets of PowerPoints here. Sorry about this. Usually I have my second monitor, which makes it easy. That's not it. No, I got the wrong one again. Okay.
You only get one more chance, Jeremy.
All right. There we go. All right. I had the wrong PowerPoint up, that's why.
Something about Fermi problems?
No, that is the wrong one. Why is it doing that? I'm telling it to share the appropriate PowerPoint and it's sharing the wrong one. Okay, so what I think I might need to do.
Because it's a Microsoft product.
Yeah, we got to watch out what we say here because we'll get cut off.
Yeah, they'll pull the plug on us.
Yeah, okay, let me try it once more. There we go. That's the one that I want.
All right.
All right. So MARC Field Day will be June 25 and 26. It'll be at the Lower Providence Fire Company Fairgrounds. That's 3199 Ridge Pike at East Mount Kirk Avenue in Eagleville. So I think Jim will go over a lot more of the details here. Setup will begin 9 a.m. on Saturday, and the actual on-air operating begins at 2 p.m. on Saturday. And we'll go Saturday through the night and then into Sunday morning. So a little map of the area here. So the building you see at the lower left here, that's the main fire department building. So if you're coming along Ridge Pike, which probably most of you will be, you're going to see the fire department over here, turn onto Mount Kirk Avenue, and then come into the back here. So this grass area, that's our parking. There is a parking lot here, but the fire department uses that, and they usually don't like us to block that up. So our parking will be back in the grass. And then this little building here is a covered pavilion, and that's where we'll do most of our operating from. So it's a nice little covered area in case we've got rain or anything like that. And then this big field out here is where we set up all of our antennas. There's a couple of nice telephone poles there. Their question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Normally, most of the people that I've seen come along Ridge and then turn in just before the fire building itself.
But turn in, yeah, you could turn in here as well.
And then go up the dirt road.
Yeah.
And,
I think you can do either unless the fire department has them blocked off or something. Yes, you can come in here,
okay.
Or you could come up Mount Kirk.
I mean, do they ask us not to use that front entrance? I don't want to.
No, they haven't asked us not to use it, but they have asked us, we must park on the grass. We can't park in on any of these parking spots or anything like that.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Yeah. Other than that, we're good.
Okay. Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Yeah, so a little bit about how MARC has done Field Day, probably a little bit more up to date than the equipment you see there. So a couple of pictures, actually Dennis sent me a bunch of those and I added a few more recent ones. This is a Field Day in 1999. This was at a different site. So I'm actually not familiar with this site here, but yeah, you can see that. It was nice. We had a Verizon truck or Bell Atlantic or one of those. So that was a convenient way to get the antenna up in the air. But I do say at our current site, we have a nicer operating area. We don't have to use the little tent like that. Here was 2008. That was the Verizon truck. You can see them putting the antenna on. I think in the foreground, you can see Josie. I think that's Lou, our treasurer. I think that might be Bob there with the hat. And that's probably Steve, our past president. So there's
I
the
think
truck.
Dennis said this is the site. He gave some, at one of our meetings, he gave a talk about this history.
Yeah.
And I think he said this is the site of the Shannondale
Yeah, that might be right.
assisted living facility. So this area is no longer available for public use.
Yeah, we don't have this site anymore.
That
Right.
site is the Verizon training field. The previous pictures were Shannondale,
Okay.
I think.
These were Shannondale.
Yeah, that's Shannondale there.
Okay, and then that's the Verizon site.
They're
Yeah, that
actually
was-
both Verizon training sites, but this one had more poles in it, I think.
Well, that's because they can practice going up and down the poles.
So here is a field day in 2008. You see some folks operating and also some folks eating, which is important. This is 2009, which I think was our first year at the current site. So you can see in the picture on the left, that's the pavilion where we'll be operating. That was the tri-band Yagi that we were putting up there. So that Yagi has actually been donated to the Gloucester County Club to replace the antenna they lost in the storm last year. On the right picture, we see the 6-meter quad. We also don't have that antenna anymore. It was replaced with a 6-meter Yagi. So that was another picture of the setup in 2009. Some folks operating. I can see, I think that's Dieter on the right-hand side. That might be Bob in the upper left there. Here's 2011. We see Ron Kenwood on top of the building with the tri-bander. The picture on the right, we see the G5 RV, which is kind of our workhorse antenna at this point. It's strung between these two big poles, and there's the feed line hanging down from it. Here's this is the quad being set up, or the quaggy, I think it's called, being set up for 6 meters. We can see Rich in the back there, our vice president. We got Ron on top of the ladder. I think that's Steve, former president. Another picture of operating. There's a picture of the setup. You can see both of the directional antennas. Here's 2012. Got a little picture of the whole setup here. Picture of the pavilion. You can see people operating. I had a little telescope there. We were checking out the sun for a while. This is 2016. We have Todd K1 TEW with his famous Marines communication truck. And in the bottom right here, I call this the Iwo Jima picture, putting up the the tri-bander on top of the building. I think that's Bob, Ron, and I'm not sure who the third person is. Also in 2016, we lost one of the stringers that we used to put the antenna up. So we had to call in the fire department for an assist, and they put the stringer up for us. Here was 2019. I got a couple of pictures at dusk. So you can see the tri-bander. You can see a couple of wire antennas strung across here. And in the upper left in the foreground, that's the satellite antenna. It's a 2-meter 440 Yagi on a tripod. So it can be pointed at different angles. So that was the historical picture. So that was kind of an interesting trip down memory lane. So maybe Jim, you want to tell us about field day?
Yes, and thanks, Jeremy. Those pictures were great. I didn't see myself in there, so I was a little upset, but we'll get over that.
We'll get you a picture next year.
Yeah, there you go.
Well,
There you go. What we're going to do this year, it's going to be at the same location, the last location there, which is a wonderful location. I mean, we have the pavilion, electricity, refrigerators, facilities, restrooms, and everything. So it's a great location. So the plan is to, a few of us, myself, Lou, and Jeff, will meet at his house to pick up the equipment on Friday. We really, I mean, everybody's welcome if they want to come, but we really don't need a lot of help that day because we just load the equipment up, take it to the field day site and put it in the garages there, put all the equipment in there, lock it in there, and then it's ready to go the next morning when we meet Saturday morning. That's when we'll need a lot of help to get things set up. So we'd like to see as many people as we can get there. We're going to be there. You know, the official start time for us is going to be 9 o'clock. I'll be there earlier, so you're welcome to come up anytime. Rich is going to bring some donuts and coffee, so we'll have some snacks in the morning, and we'll go from there. So what we'll do, we'll get set up. We usually get set up, you know, a little after lunchtime, and then we'll order some lunch, sandwiches, pizza or something, and you know, wait for 2 o'clock, and then we're ready to fly. We're going to be 2 Alpha this year with the GOTA and with the UHF VHF. So we have all the radios. We're going to operate pretty much all modes. Jeremy's going to be working satellites. I have a signal link which was donated, which I still have to put the jumpers in, but we're going to use that as a digital for whatever, FT8, FLDigi or something like that. And then we'll, you know, operate. You're welcome to stay overnight. I'll be there all night. Jeremy usually stays. Whoever wants to stay is welcome. And, you know, we'll obviously have dinner that evening and we order out and there'll be lots of snacks and stuff, which I'll pick up. Sunday morning, we'll get up. We usually break down early. So, you know, a few people came last year at noon and we were already broke down. So we usually start breaking down around 10:30 or 11. So on Sunday, if anybody's coming, they need to, you know, get there early because, you know, we're staying overnight. So the earlier, the better. There was some good operating that morning, as I recall last year. So, and then we pack it up and we'll, you know, take it to either Brian's house or back to Jeff's. We probably Brian's house. I do have a few questions, which we can, I guess, ask him offline. As far as Bob questioned, were there steps at your house there, Brian? So if you,
I didn't catch that last comment.
The at your house to store the equipment, do you have steps there? Do we have to go up and down steps to take the stuff in?
You enter on the main level,
Right.
and then you have to go down to the basement.
Okay.
One
All
flight.
right. Okay. All right.
Or if you want to risk life and limb, you can walk around the back of the house and go in through the back door, and then there's no stairs.
Oh.
However, and this is why I said risk life and limb. I basically live on a cliff, and my side yards are slopes.
Okay.
So I almost never use the back entrance.
Okay. Well, that's good advice.
But for very large objects, it might be difficult to make a turn on the stair because
Right.
to go from the main level to the basement, there's one turn.
Okay. Well,
Once you get down there, there's plenty of room.
yeah, there's not a lot of they're bins, so that's the bulk of it. I mean, some of the antennas may, you know, be an issue with the turns. All right. Well, we'll
Then
talk
you go in
about
the back door.
then. Right. We'll go in the back door and just pop right in. So, okay. All right. Just curious. Anyway, that's an
Wear
over.
climber shoes and
Yeah,
bring along your climber's axe.
exactly. That's pretty much an overview of what we're going to do. Does anybody have any specific questions about field day?
How are we doing on scouts?
Jeremy's going
Jeremy.
to speak on the scouts.
Okay,
So-
I'll wait.
We'll give that a few minutes. But specifics about timing, location. I know that most of us on this particular call have been there before. If the YouTubers have questions, I guess, you know, they could send them to Jeremy via chat or however it works. I don't have a YouTube up, so.
All right. Well, we did post the address and they could find it on the website as well.
Right,
So
right. Yeah,
Google
everything's
Maps
on,
works very well.
yeah,
So
everything's on the website, so it should be easy to get there. The weather is looking like it's gonna be a little hot, you know, in the mid 80s. So, you know, dress appropriately. I'll break out my flip-flops for sure. So we'll be ready to go.
You can always come to the classroom in the afternoon.
Oh, is it?
And
they have
you
air
might have to
conditioning?
learn about radio, but it is air conditioned. So,
We may want to think about that.
yeah, we'll make you take the merit badge test.
Yeah. So, but other than that, I mean, the rules, I mean, if we have any questions on rules, they're on the ARR website. I mean, I've read them several times. I probably know most of them, but you know, I may have to reference back and forth. But if any specific questions about that, you know, we can go from there. So.
Yeah, I did see there were a couple of differences from the last few years. So one of them is everyone's limited to 100 watts maximum. Another is that class 1D station. So if you're doing a home like regular station, 1D stations can work each other for points, which used to not be the case.
Right.
Also, if you're operating from home, you can contribute your score toward the club score. So that was that COVID rule that was put in. That has been extended. So if you're not going to be able to make it out to field day with us, if you'll be operating from home, when you submit your log, you can actually request that your score be added to ours. And we are the Mid-Atlantic Amateur Radio Club. So that's the way to put it.
Yeah.
If you put MARC, there's probably like 15 marks.
Yeah. It has to be specifically the way we have it listed. So, but we'll go over that if anybody's going to do that. And, you know, we would appreciate people doing that because it contributes to our score. So it would be a good thing. And I'm kind of under the impression that they may extend that rule forever, the way it looks.
That would be nice if they did that.
Right, right. So I think it would be good also. Any other questions?
Say again, what are we operating as up in Eagleville? 3A?
2A. 2A.
2A plus Agoda?
Plus Agoda, and we can also have a UHF, DHF too.
Okay.
Does anybody, you know, think we should operate more than a 2A? I think we did quite well with the 2A the last few years or the last few times.
I guess the question would be that we would need extra radios
Right.
and potentially extra antennas.
Well, the
Right.
antenna, I think, is a big deal.
Yeah. I mean, if
Yeah,
we
you
wanted
just have
one
a-
extra, I mean, I'll have my KX2 with me, but that's only 10 watts.
Right. Well,
All right,
we-
so crank it down to 5 and we'll get
Q-
QRP points.
Yeah.
we have a club radio too, I believe, in the box, but
But we have the two IC 718s.
right, those are the two club radios we're going to
Yeah.
use for the 2 alpha.
Yeah. And then Dennis said he has a 706 that he'll bring.
Right,
So then that could potentially be the GODA and or the VHF.
right. Well, we can have his radio plus a VHF UHF.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I'll bring my FT 8900, which is good for FM.
Okay,
We'll use that for satellite, but it can also be connected to the repeater and to simplex.
right.
We want to do some FM contacts.
Yeah,
Well,
Bob,
the thing we need to be careful of is while the scouts, the second half of the scout session, there'll be groups rotating through the site so they can get on the air as part of their last requirement. So we want to make sure that there's a radio dedicated for the scouts during the time that they're in session.
well, we'll dedicate both of them to the scouts to get them through. I don't really want them waiting. I mean, we'll have 2 operators so they can get in line between, you know, behind 2 operators actually. So, and I'm not going to steal Jeremy's thunder, but I don't know that we're going to have that many scouts this year.
Did you want me to talk about the scouts now?
Yeah, why
And
don't we?
satellites?
I think we're at that point. So if you don't mind.
Okay, let me, this should go a little faster because now I know what I'm doing. All right. So as part of field day, we're going to have a merit badge session for the BSA, formerly Boy Scouts of America. So it'll be led by Brian and myself. The session will run between 2 and 7 p.m. on Saturday. So at the right-hand side here, you see the radio merit badge. So those of you who know CW, know that spells out BSA. And it has a little lightning, which if you see that while you're operating radio, that's probably not a good sign. So I'm not sure why they put that in there. That's what you should not be seeing when you're operating, unless you're doing spark gap. So the way that'll work is the first half of the session, about 2 to 4:30, that'll be in the classroom inside the main fire department building. And then we may break up into smaller groups, and then we'll be out operating the radios, probably between about 4:30 and 7. So if you'll be there at that time, we could probably use some help with the scouts operating the radios. So if you're a licensed amateur, if you've been on the air, you can help out, help someone make their first contact and help them get their merit badge. So if you are helping out with us, we'll set up a simplex frequency. So bring an HT along. So we'll probably use that just to keep in touch on site. Maybe we'll pick one of the public service frequencies that we use, like 147.55 or one of those that we use. We'll pick one of those and we'll be able to keep in contact. And ideally, we'll have each scout make at least one QSO. Obviously, we're at the mercy of the bands. If the contacts are terrible, maybe not all of them will make a contact, but hopefully all of them will. As far as the requirements, I know I've committed the cardinal sin here of putting up a text-heavy slide, but if you're watching this on YouTube, you can pause it and read through all of it. This is from the merit badge pamphlet. So it's actually quite a good program. It's probably about half of the technician class license. So, explain what radio is, difference between broadcasting and two-way, call signs, phonetic alphabet, how radio waves travel, WWV, NOAA weather radio, DX and local stations, the FCC, talk a little about the electromagnetic spectrum, AM and FM radio, citizens band, amateur radio, TV, all that good stuff, cell phones, their radio as well. Talking about AM, FM, digital, CW transmissions, block diagrams of radio stations, so transmitters, receivers, antennas, all that good stuff. Safety is a big thing, so lightning precautions, grounding, all that sort of stuff. And then we'll be working at the radio station, so they'll learn about amateur radio licensing and testing, and then make some contacts on the air. So learn some Q signals, amateur radio terms, how would you make emergency calls on the air, talking about different types of transceivers, so handhelds and base radios, and then carry on a QSO. So that's basically the merit badge session. So far, we have 3 scouts registered, but we may get a last minute surge. So hopefully we'll have a couple more in there by the time it's done. Sometimes we've done over 20, but we were kind of bursting at the gills when we were doing that. So I think we'll keep it a little bit smaller this year. Another thing that I want to do is satellite operating. So the ARRL gives 100 bonus points for one completed QSO on any FM satellite. So that's worth 50 to 100 regular contacts. So this is a biggie that people want to go for. So currently there are 6 active FM satellites, and they're all in low Earth orbit, meaning a couple hundred miles above the surface, which means the range is kind of limited, usually like 500 to 1,000 miles is what you're talking about, which is pretty far for VHF and UHF. Occasionally you can get a little bit further, but that requires kind of heroic efforts. So I'm not talking here about the linear satellites, which are usually used for sideband or CW or packet satellites. Those require a whole different set of equipment. We'll be working with FM satellites, which actually work quite a bit like repeaters. So I'll talk about the 6 active satellites. Number 1 is the International Space Station, which has been up in the air about 25 years. But the current repeater that was on there was activated in 2020. It was installed during one of the servicing missions. So the uplink frequency, so uplink means what goes up to the satellite, is 145.99. The downlink is 437.800 with a PL of 67. So one difference between satellites and regular repeaters is that all satellites are crossband. That just makes the electronics a lot smaller, not having to have that really fancy duplexer separating 2 frequencies that are close together. So they all operate in crossband mode. Now, if your timing is right, you may be able to catch the astronauts on the ISS, and their radio, they actually have to operate split because of some various rules. So the uplink is 144.49 if you're in the Americas. I think if you're in like Europe and Asia, it's a different frequency. And their downlink is 145.8. So obviously the astronauts have a day job, but if you have the right timing, you might be able to contact the astronauts on board, which is on a separate radio from the repeater. The other FM satellites are all unmanned, and they're generally a lot smaller. So the first one I'll talk about is known as a CubeSat. So this actually looks like I don't know, like a death cube or something like that, but it's actually about 4 inches square. So it's about the size of a Rubik's Cube. It's a pretty tiny little thing there. And this is called AO91, also known as RAD FXSat or Fox 1B. So there was a series of satellites called Fox. Well, this is the last one remaining. The others have all given up the ghost. They didn't last very long. This one was launched in 2017. So these names, the A symbolizes the country. So this is an American satellite. So it gets A. O means Oscar, which is orbiting satellite carrying amateur radio. And then there's a sequential number assigned to each one of them. So the higher the number, generally the later the launch. So again, this one has an uplink and a downlink frequency and a PL of 67. Now, I think this one's having a problem with the battery. So I think it's only active during daylight hours. So if you get an overnight pass, it may not be operational. So the other thing is a lot of these satellites are not working all the time. Next one is called PO101. So P symbolizes the Philippines in this case. And this was launched in 2018. Again, uplink and downlink frequencies. This is another CubeSat. Looks a little bit different, but it's the same idea, the 4x4 cube. This is a part-time satellite, so they activate the transponder periodically. So hopefully it'll be on during field day. The next one is called SaudiSat. This is SO50, which is actually one of the older satellites, but it's reliable. It's been up there for 20 years and it still works very well. So there's the uplink and downlink frequencies. It's also basically a CubeSat. You can see the antenna hanging off there. The oddity about SO50 is that it has a PL of 67, but when it's been inactive for a while, you have to actually send an arming tone of 74 hertz in order to activate it. But the other side of this is that on field day, that's very unlikely. These birds are going crazy. So imagine the worst HF pileup you've ever seen and like multiply that by 10. That's what most of these satellites look like on field day. So we probably won't have to worry about the arming tone. The final two, there's one called Lilac Sat 2. This one doesn't have the numbering convention. This was sent up by China, so I guess they don't follow the numbering convention. This one is intermittently active. Sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down, and it's kind of a crapshoot as to whether you'll get through to it. But I'll show you some ways you can get more information. Final one is something called AO27. So from the number, you might guess this is an old satellite, and it is. It's been there since the 1990s. This one was actually dead for about 10 years, but in the last couple of years, they've noticed that it occasionally comes back to life. So it's not clear what's happening there, but it sometimes comes back to life for a few minutes and then shuts off. So this is probably not going to be working, but you never know, we might luck out. You don't know until you actually listen and, oh, look at that, it works. Kind of an interesting story, a little aside here, is there was an even older satellite called AO7 that was launched in, I think, 1974, and it crapped out sometime in the early 1980s or something like that. It was dead. Years and years later, they found the signal from it. I think it was like around the year 2000, and they discovered that the thing came back to life. So apparently the battery shorted out, which killed the satellite, but then sometime later, the short broke down, the battery opened up again. Now, of course, that means you don't have a battery, but when the satellite is in the sun, it actually generates enough energy that it actually turns on for a little while. And then later on, it was found out that some Polish amateurs had discovered this in the 1980s. So the Polish resistance was actually using that satellite to communicate secretively to get around all the communist regime blocking things. So kind of an interesting story with satellites. Yeah. So those are the 6 active satellites. So as far as the setup, we'll use an FT8900, which is a 2-meter 440 dual bander. What's important with this is that it operates full duplex. So the thing about FM satellites that makes them different from repeaters, one of the other things is they don't have a courtesy tail. So it's not like a repeater where you can just kerchunk it and then you wait to hear the bloop to see if you got in. With satellites, that doesn't happen. So the only way to know that you're getting in is to actually hear yourself coming back. So when you operate in full duplex, you're actually transmitting while you're listening on the other band at the same time. So with the little duplexer that you put in line, you can actually do that with the FT8900. You do need to adjust for the Doppler shift because these satellites are moving fast enough that the signal gets red shifted or blue shifted. On 2 meters, it doesn't really matter because it's like 2 or 3 kilohertz, which falls within the FM passband. But on the 440 side, it can be up to 5 to 10 kilohertz, which means you actually need to tune the frequency up and down a little bit as the satellite passes. So depending on whether it's coming towards you or going away from you, you have to adjust that 440 frequency, basically up or down 1 or 2 clicks. So you have to aim the antenna. So this is the antenna that we'll use. It's a little Yagi with 2 meter and 440 elements. And you need to point that antenna towards where the satellite is as it's flying overhead. And you may also need to rotate it because these satellites tumble through space. You don't know which way the antennas are pointing. So you may need to rotate the antenna to adjust the polarization. And finally, I always use a phone during these passes, which generally last about 10 minutes. I use a phone to record the audio because it gets pretty crazy as the satellite is going overhead. So I just record it, and then sometimes you have to go back later and figure out, well, who did I actually make contact with? Who acknowledged my call? Because you may have 5 or 6 different people trying to get in at once. So as far as software goes, I use an app called SatSat. So you can look this up in the iTunes or whatever, the Apple Store. Or I think Google Play has something similar for Androids. It's called SatSat. So it gives you a little map showing where satellites are. And then when you have a satellite pass, it actually shows the path of the satellite across the sky. You get your cardinal directions. It tells you what time you acquire the satellite, what time you lose the satellite. So AOS is acquisition of signal. LOS is loss of signal. And then it tells you the maximum elevation. So the higher that is, the better. And it gives you the path across the sky. If you want to see what the status of satellites are, go to the AMSAT webpage. So they have a nice FM satellite frequency summary, which has all that information that I gave with the frequencies. And then there's this nice status page that shows you satellite status. So the way to read this, you have a list of all the different satellites down here, and then you have dates going back about a week or so. So blue means the satellite is active. So these are all user reported. So if you see a blue, that means that 1 or more users reported that the satellite is operational. Yellow, most of these satellites have like a little CW beacon on board. So yellow means that somebody heard the beacon, but the transponder is not operational. Red means they picked up nothing. That means it's dead. Orange means conflicting reports. That means you have people saying yes, people saying no. And for the ISS, purple means that someone heard the ISS crew. So with the green arrows, I've indicated all of the FM repeaters. So see AO27 here is mostly reds, but there's a couple of blues, so maybe we'll luck out. AO91 is blue, so that's going to be good. ISS, we've got blues and reds and a couple of purples in here. And it looks like there's a lot of people because the number that you see there is the number of reports. So there's 13 people reporting that they heard astronauts on the ISS. But then right after that, you have 12 people saying that they heard nothing. There's Lilac Sat, which is mostly yellow, a couple of blues. PO101, that's the Philippines satellite, kind of alternates red and blue as it goes on and off. And there's SO50, Saudi Sat, blue, pretty much all the way across. So those are the 6 satellites to look out for FM. The remaining ones are, some of them are linear satellites, so sideband and CW. Some of them are packet satellites. Some of them are older machines that are defunct, like AO92 and AO95. Some of them are new and they're still being commissioned. But the 6 that I have indicated there, those are the FM birds. So here's a list of the field day passes. I made this for Norristown. So what we'll see is there's a couple of fairly nice passes on Saturday morning, which unfortunately won't count for field day points, but might be good to test out the equipment. A couple of passes Saturday afternoon, PO101 and Lilac Sat. Then after that, it really picks up after midnight. So Sunday overnight into, or rather Saturday overnight into Monday, we've got a bunch of passes, basically like 1 or 2 an hour, all the way through until, I think I went up to about 2 or 3 p.m. And there's nothing beyond there. I didn't include a
question.
Yeah, Brian.
Yeah, are those times local or
local? Yeah,
Not-
those
not
are all
U-
local times.
not
in
UTC.
Norristown.
And tell me again why we wouldn't want to attempt an SSB.
I just don't have the equipment to do it.
They're on different frequencies, or?
Yeah, they're on different frequencies and you need a different radio. You need a 2-meter 440 all band radio. It's also something I have no experience with, so
Oh, okay.
it can be a little difficult because now what you've got, it's a linear transponder. So you're sending your uplink signal and then you're listening for the downlink, but everything's moving around because of Doppler. So it's kind of an interesting thing. It's you're working sideband split and the frequency is moving with time.
Wow.
And you're
Well-
also tracking with your antenna. So
One of them is.
yeah, so it's kind of challenging. Yeah, so that's the list of passes. So I think most of the activity is going to be Saturday overnight and Sunday morning, but maybe we'll get a Saturday morning contact as well. One final thing is the field day bulletin. I don't know if we had any plans to try to copy that. They are sending it out a couple times on Friday.
Right. We should try it.
Yeah, maybe our best bet is to try to get the digital.
Right.
It looks like on Saturday they're sending the digital at 9 p.m. Well, at noon on Sunday, but we'll probably be gone by then.
Right.
Because the digital, you can just set something reading it and the computer will do the work for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because the phone, sometimes it's going up and down. So what we may want to do is if we are going to get the phone, we'll record it ahead of time or record it and then try to transcribe it later.
Right. Okay.
So that's what I had to say for satellites and the merit badge.
That was a great presentation on the satellites. I really enjoyed that. So
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, maybe I'll do
A question on the, one last question.
Yeah.
You and I are doing the presentation, as I understand.
for the scouts. Yeah.
Are these the same charts we used last time?
Yeah. I think I sent it to you in an email.
Oh, did you? Okay, I'll look.
Yeah. So it has 3 parts. Or I think I sent the link to you. So we'll have to decide which parts we each want to do. Because it's a
Fine.
3-parter as usual. Well, let's talk by email. We can figure out what we want to do.
I saw you sent out a request for help. Did you get any responses on that?
Dennis said he'll be able to help out.
Oh, wonderful.
At least one
Okay.
other.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not usually I'll hear from a few other folks.
Right. That's good.
Yeah. So what are we thinking of in terms of antennas? So we'll have the G5 RV. That'll be our main one.
And aren't we going to have don't we have an 80 and a 40 sloper that we?
Yeah.
Used-
We've got that multi-band end fed.
Oh, yeah.
I think the way we did that, didn't we feed it by, there was like that little stanchion in the parking area and then had it go up to the first pole.
Yes. Yes.
So we did that. Then we've got the 80-meter dipole. We've got the 40-meter dipole.
Hmm.
So I think the 80-meter worked well as an inverted V.
Yes.
That's how we did it because it was big. And I think the 40, when we used that, we did it as a sloper.
That was the sloper. Right. And
Now, I think Rich said that he had an end-fed antenna that he might bring as well.
oh, well, that would be great.
If it's a multi-band, that gives us a little bit more flexibility.
And the G5RV, we used that on 20, right?
That works very well on 20.
Right.
I think 15, it's not so great.
Right. Well, I think we have plenty of antennas, so I think we'll be good
Yeah, and I
as
think
far as that goes.
yeah, the G5 works, I think, fairly well on 80, but it is a little bit undersized. But then again, even a full size, it's too low.
Right. Yeah, it's not that high.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need the fire truck again.
Yeah, so if you guys are going to be at Lower Providence on Friday, we might want to check that the pulleys are still working.
Oh, that's right at the top of the list.
All right.
Yeah, because if they're not, I don't know. Yeah, well, we'll have to figure something out. We'll have to get Bob to throw baseball up there or something, so tennis ball.
Unless we get Todd to climb the pole. But,
Yeah, we got in trouble for that last time.
Well,
So,
if we need to have the fire department come out, it'd be good if we know the day before we can.
yeah, well, we'll know once. That's one of the main things we check, just to make sure the ropes are still there. So, because we put up new ropes last year, I believe, didn't we, Bob? Were you there when we put up the brand new rope?
Yeah, I think we did put a couple new ropes up.
Yeah, so I feel fairly confident that they'll still be there, and so, unless somebody found them and cut them, but every year they've always been there. But last year they were kind of weathered. That's why we put up new ones. So hopefully we'll be good there. Good to go. Any other questions or comments or things? And everybody,
Yeah,
everybody's-
I have a set of ham sticks. I mean, that's kind of an antennas of last resort. But
yeah, and anybody that wants to bring anything, you know, that they want to try out, you're welcome. You know, we don't want to interfere with the main stations, but I mean, there's a lot of things that can be tried. You know, QRP rigs, your KX2s, I mean, all kinds of things. So
if we do have more radios, would that affect our operating class?
yes.
Yeah.
Well, if we take like a main radio off and put that on, just so I'll have to brush up on that, but we can only have two operating at the same time.
Yeah. Because I know like last year I disconnected one of the radios and connected my KX2 to do digital,
Right.
which I'm not 100% sure is kosher, but
I read through it again yesterday, and I'll have to read it again, but we might be okay. We might.
I mean, I think it is. I mean, worst case, like if you have a radio and it dies on you in the middle of field day and you got to replace it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The main taboo is you can't have the 2A hooked up and then hook up your KX2 in addition. That's a no-no.
Yeah. Yes, I made sure to disconnect the other one from the
Right,
antennas
right.
and everything.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah. Now, I mean, I know some contest stations, they actually have like a lockout. So you can have like 10 radios going at once. You just can't transmit on more than a certain number at the same time.
Yeah, they call that an octopus or something.
Yeah, so you can have people like hunting for contacts, and then
right.
Then you're basically just sending out a signal constantly.
Right, which I guess is a good idea, but I think that's a no-no with the field day too.
Yeah, that's probably pushing it. I mean, it might be okay, but I'm not sure.
Yeah,
It's not something we have anyway. So
yeah, so we don't have to worry about it. We're not that technically advanced. We don't have that equipment. I'm just kidding. So,
I mean, I was actually thinking, depending on how I'm feeling on Sunday, maybe hanging out a little bit later after we pack up. I mean, I might just stay there with the KX2 and throw a wire up into a tree or something.
well, there's no reason that anybody can't stay there.
Yeah.
It's just that, you know, most of us would probably want to get the main stuff packed up and ready to go.
Yeah, we want to get all the heavy stuff out of there.
Yeah, because I have a KX3 and I have a portable antenna I could throw up somewhere too. So, and yeah, you're welcome to stay because the site is it's just like a wonderful site. I mean, there's plenty of room to do things like
Yeah, I'll see how I feel. Yeah,
Yeah, well-
I was actually remembering that there is a shower there in the bathroom.
yes.
So if that's usable, that might be a good thing to have, especially if it's going to be like 85 or 90 degrees during the day.
It is supposed to be pretty warm. Well, I'll ask Lou on Friday, you know, what the accessibility is to the shower.
Yeah.
But is definitely there. So
Yeah. That might be useful. Feel a little bit more human after the day.
yes. We can sit next to each other.
Save water. Oh, on the radio, you mean? Oh,
Right.
All right. We've got to watch out. We'll get thrown off YouTube here.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But anyway, that's all I really have unless anybody has any further questions.
Last year, I brought a gas can with gas. Do you want me to bring gas again?
Please, if you could, Bob, that would be perfect.
Okay,
Especially with
I
the
don't
gas
think we
prices.
used a whole lot. I don't think we really used a whole lot. So maybe I'll bring just like a 2.5 gallon this year.
I think that's going to be plenty because you're right, we didn't use a whole lot. Part of that could have been because Todd had that battery thing hooked up for a little while.
Yeah, I think we were running off solar for a lot of the event.
But I think 2.5 gallons is going to be plenty. If it's not, I'm sure we can find a gas at $10 a gallon somewhere.
Yep.
So, no, thank you, Bob. Yeah, because I'm not sure that Jeff has had one last year. He has the generator, so we'll see.
And do you need to add oil to the gas for that one?
No. Just
No,
straight
four-
gas.
four cycle.
Straight gas.
Trying to think if there's anything else that we
Yeah, let me just
need.
scan my notes here. I think that's.
Well, while we're on pause here, Jeremy, I just scanned through my email. I must have deleted the email that had the link because I can't find it.
All right, let me.
If you could resend it, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I always delete Jeremy's emails.
All right. Oh, that guy again. Delete.
Well, I usually read them first.
All right. And then maybe I'll send you an email probably tomorrow because I actually have to drive tonight. So I'll be in the car. So it'll either be late tonight or tomorrow. I'll send you an email with the links.
That's fine. I looked online and all the ones that I found online were the ones dated 2012.
Yeah, I have ones from I think it's 2018. Those are the most recent I could find.
Right.
Is
So
that
any
date on the
changes
chart
beyond that?
or is that in the, just when you downloaded it?
The one that I downloaded. And that's the most up-to-date one that they show on the BSA website.
Yeah, but the chart itself says 2012. That's the difference. There's a date that the file is saved and there's a date that the charts were effective.
No, the ones that I have say 2017. In fact, one of the modules I think was updated in 2020 or so.
I don't have those copies.
Yeah, there were ones I just downloaded. So
Did you
Send me
go
the
to,
link and we'll be good when you get a chance.
yeah.
Okay.
Did you go to a website? I believe it's called Brian, Bryan on Scouting. And I think they may have updated things.
I'll check that out.
Yeah, just check it out. But I think if you have one dated 2020 with updates, I mean, that's probably the most recent one.
What was that?
It's Brian, Bryan, I believe, on Scouting. If you Google it, it might come up. There's a bunch of third-party sites which are a lot better than the BSA site. So there are other ones.
Here you go. I just found the link. I'll send it to you in the chat. It's a 3-part. It says radio merit badge module. Two of them say 2017. The other one says 2021. So I guess that's the only one that was updated more recently.
Okay.
I think I had a little bit of difficulty downloading them. I had to mess around a little bit. Might have been some security setting. It might have been on my end, but if you're having a problem, I could send you the files.
Yeah, that works.
All right. So did anyone have
So
anything
how am I
else?
getting this?
I just sent it in the chat.
Oh, in the
Zoom.
chat.
Yeah, you can just click the link.
Yeah,
It's a K2 BSA.
yeah, I got it.
Yeah, it's about a little over halfway down. It's the slides that were made by K2 GW. So otherwise, I think we're pretty good to go for field day. So I will definitely see you at 9 o'clock.
I will be there.
I think with the heat, it might be good to get the antennas up early.
Yes, I agree. And
Then if we got to do messing around inside the pavilion, we can do that later.
right,
And then Brian and I run to the classroom at 2 o'clock.
right. Good.
In time for the hottest part of the day.
Yeah, you
Believe
guys,
the mad dogs and Englishmen for the noonday sun. And I'm Irish, so.
there you go. There you go. Good. Yeah, if we have no more questions, I'm good. And, I'm looking forward to it. I took the
So
day
mine.
off Friday, so.
All right, thank you, Jeremy. Thank you.
All
Jeremy.
right. Thanks all for attending. And hopefully
you.
folks watching on YouTube will learn something as well. All right. Hope to see you on Saturday at Field Day.
And talk-in available on 06 or 13.
That's right. Yeah, we'll try to have a radio up, so either on 06 or 13. I'm not sure which one works better at the site, but they're linked, so.
There, yeah, it doesn't matter what, if you, when we get there, they're both linked, so we'll pick the best one.
Or you could even talk in on 445.675 if you
Yeah,
want to be weird.
it'll either be 06 or the 13. I always have an HT with that on, just in case
Yeah.
somebody gets lost.
Okay. All right. See you Saturday.
Okay, guys, thanks. See you Saturday.
Take care.
All
See
right.
you then.